Airbus and Qatar Airways, two aviation giants that have a lot of history between them. You might be aware that over the past year, these companies have been at odds with each other in a $2 billion lawsuit. It was back in December 2021 when Qatar Airways announced they were suing Airbus in a British court over issues relating to quote-unquote accelerated surface degradation affecting the airline's A350s. But fast forward to today, February 2nd, 2023, and the conflict has seemingly overnight been resolved. To say that I never saw this news coming would be an absolute understatement, but of course I'm super glad to see that both parties have finally reached a compromise. In this video, we're going to discuss what the future holds for Airbus and Qatar Airways moving forward. As a quick disclaimer, I am not an aviation professional and am making this video solely for the purpose of news reporting from an aviation enthusiast perspective. All research and statements were made in good faith and not intended to mislead. So without any further delay, let's begin. Now, when I made this video about 10 days ago, it really seemed like the Airbus-Qatar Airways dispute was far from over. But as of yesterday, February 1st, Qatar Airways released this statement saying they had reached a quote-unquote amicable and mutually agreeable settlement with Airbus regarding fuselage issues affecting 30 of the airline's A350 aircraft. As you can see here, the statement further confirms that a repair project for these planes is now underway, and both parties look forward to getting these aircraft safely back in the air. Finally, another amazing bit of news worth mentioning from the statement is that the parties will now proceed to discontinue their legal claims, meaning that the $2 billion lawsuit is no more. To provide some brief context for those who aren't aware, Qatar Airways operate a fleet of 53 Airbus A350s, and they were actually the launch customer for both variants, the A350-900 in 2015 and the 1000 in 2018. Sometime in late 2021, the carrier began noting major surface degradation on multiple planes, which prompted the grounding of 7 A350-1000s and 23 A350-900s. Other airlines like Delta and Etihad, among others, had also reported similar issues, but they didn't ground any planes as it was nowhere near the extent of what Qatar Airways was facing. The fuselage surface underneath the aircraft paint layer had been degrading and cracking. These cracks ended up exposing the carbon layer underneath that protects the aircraft from lightning strikes. Now, Airbus acknowledged that these issues were indeed present, but in spite of this, they were convinced that there was no threat to overall safety, which Qatar Airways denied. Eventually, the feud escalated to such a level that Airbus cancelled all of Qatar Airways' remaining orders for the Airbus A350 and another order for 50 Airbus A321neos. Recently, Airbus announced they were making some slight changes to the A350 fuselage, and this is a topic I covered in a previous video. In short, the changes were regarding the A350's lightning protection layer, which previously consisted of something called ECF, or expanded copper foil. Airbus started implementing a new layer called PCF, or perforated copper foil, on new A350 deliveries starting from 2022. The new PCF layer change, according to Airbus, was not at all in response to the issues afflicting Qatar Airways. The PCF layer, though, makes the aircraft fuselage lighter, but ironically enough, it also increases the durability of the paint layer. Now, let's transition back to the present. Airbus and Qatar Airways have officially made amends, so what comes next? Well, first of all, Airbus agreed to provide repair services for all 30 of Qatar Airways' grounded A350s. More notably though, the manufacturer has also agreed to reinstate all of Qatar Airways' previous orders that were said to be cancelled. This consisted of 23 more A350s and, of course, the 50 A321neos. Deliveries of the remaining 23 A350 aircraft to Qatar Airways will resume from this year. However, the A321neo order is unfortunately delayed a further 3 years, with delivery now starting from 2026. Overall, this news is a huge sigh of relief for both companies, because you also have to keep in mind that a few of the remaining A350s on order for Qatar Airways had already been fully assembled and were actually awaiting delivery when Airbus cancelled the remaining orders. For example, here's aircraft registration Alpha 7 Alpha November Tango, still with its test registration of Foxtrot Whiskey Zulu Hotel Charlie. This A350-1000 was built over a year ago and is still sitting in Toulouse awaiting delivery. Had the two companies not reached a consensus, Airbus would be scrambling to figure out what to do with the already assembled A350s, which would be tough, I imagine, since I don't think Airbus had any backup customers for those planes. For Qatar Airways, getting 30 grounded A350s back in the air in addition to 23 upcoming ones is huge. To compensate for the massive grounding, Qatar Airways was forced to bring older planes like the A330 back into service, and also wet leased A330s from Oman Air and 777s from Cathay Pacific. I'm not sure how much longer we'll see these leased aircraft operating for Qatar Airways, but if I had to guess, those planes probably won't return to their original respective airlines until the end of the year or early 2024, but please do correct me on that. As for the A330s and A380s that were temporarily reactivated, it also unfortunately won't be long before these planes officially leave the fleet for good. In an interview with Simple Flying, Qatar Airways CEO Akbar Al-Bakr stated that once the A350 deliveries resume and the airline reaches what it feels to be a sufficient point of capacity, the A380s will once again be grounded, only this time they won't come back. The same also holds true for the A330s. One last point I wanted to make in this video was regarding Qatar Airways' huge upcoming aircraft order from Boeing. As you may recall, the airline signed a massive $20 billion order with Boeing last year for over 100 planes. This move, to provide some context, was made shortly after Airbus announced that they'd cancelled the airline's A321neo order. The Boeing order consists of 50 777Xs and 50 737 MAXs. Now, with the Airbus order being restored, what do you think will happen to this huge Boeing aircraft order? Personally, I don't think Qatar Airways will do much. If anything, they might cut a few planes from the order, but overall, I think they'll remain committed in spite of the Airbus deliveries resuming. I see the A321neo and 737 MAX orders as good replacements for the current A320 fleet and also somewhat the A330s. The A330s are used on short to medium haul flights like those to Europe, Central and Northern Africa, and Southeast Asia. To my understanding, flights of this length will be perfectly tolerable by the A321neo and 737 MAX. Looking at the airline's 777X order, this consists of all variants, the 777-8X, 9X, and also the 8X freighter. I see this order as a solid replacement for the airline's current fleet of 777 aircraft. You might recall that back in 2020, the airline made quite an outrageous announcement, in my opinion, that they would retire all 777-200LR and 300ERs by 2024, so like next year. This plan would see the youngest 777s being retired at just 6 years of age, and the oldest at around 16 years. Now, the 777Xs on order were supposed to join the fleet in 2025, but due to certain program issues, Boeing has delayed all 777X orders to around 2028 or 2029. If this timeline holds, then by the time Qatar takes delivery of their first 777Xs, the oldest 777-200LRs and 300ERs will actually be at an old enough age to justify retiring them. The information presented to you in this video was based on my understanding and research. If I made any wrong points, please forgive me and offer corrections in the comments below. Let me know what you think about Airbus and Qatar Airways settling their differences. Was Qatar Airways right all along about the A350s, or were they overreacting? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, throw in your opinions about the Qatar Airways fleet, because they've got a lot of new planes coming over the next few years. So how you think this will shape the fleet, I'd also love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to smash that like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing for more exciting content. That's all for today, so please take care everyone, and I will see you all again very soon. Goodbye.